Okay.
I mean, as long as you're not saying like, yes, I'm sitting by the waterfall in the atrium of our new office.
No, gosh, I'm in a tiny room that's empty. But I do have some sweet, sweet internet.
Yeah, I saw that 450 stable.
If I plug in, the guy let me borrow his Cat 5 cord. If I plug in, I get 780.
So the 450 was over Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's Wi-Fi.
That's
I'm the only
nice.
device on it, right? I have gigabit and it's only my computer. So it's just absolutely
that's sweet.
bonkers. Hey everyone, welcome to BizDev, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter. I'm joined, as always, by Gary Voigt. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I cannot complain. I'm in my new office today. I shouldn't. It's the big pixel office, I should say. We just moved, and so I am sitting at a plastic table in an empty room with no furniture and nothing on the walls. It's impressive. It's quite
you got fast internet, right?
I do have some sweet internet. Yeah, I just had. I'm the only device in the room, and so I'm getting 500 megabits down. So that is super cool. I've never had internet that fast. So I will. I'll see if that improves my productivity. In the past, I'm going to nerd out here real quick. In the past, I have noticed if I get over 200 megabits down, my productivity actually goes up because I don't have to wait for everything. Everything's basically instant from that point on, right? And if I go below 10, my productivity goes down.
It sounds silly, but psychologically, if you're using an app or something that's slow, your productivity goes down. I can tell you recently using Adobe Illustrator, and I don't know what they're doing with their products lately, but there's so much bloat in it. It's just slowing down, just moving around the screen. You literally just stare at your computer angry. So yeah.
Just anger. You're stomping things. So this is apparently a big ad for internet services, which is unusual because normally everybody complains about them. But so far, so good for me. But have you? I wanted to switch gears and talk about something newsworthy. Have you bought any cryptocurrency ever? Have you ever done that?
I have not, and I don't know much about it. I know there's different kinds, but they're all basically the same. And I've read that apparently farming for cryptocurrency and even the NFTs and this stuff is a big drain on internet and electricity. But I don't really even know what the difference between like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or what's the other one, Dogecoin.
Oh, there's dozens of them, and they seem to like to name them after dogs. There's a new one, like so. Dogecoin that's
a Reddit one, right?
I don't
based on that honestly, dog meme.
Yeah, I mean it was made to be a joke originally, right? Dogecoin, yeah. But now there's one that's Shiba Inu, which is another dog. I mean,
oh gosh,
they're just I don't know who makes these. I guess anybody, and they just want to cash in real quick. They always jump when they're brand new or whatever for a little while.
Do you have any crypto?
I just bought my first little bit. I was figuring, hey, I had a little extra money to buy something. I'm like, this thing is going up like a rocket. Let's see what happens. But I'm going to do it the way that I play poker, right? This is how I'm planning. I'm not advising this. I am not a financial advisor, but this
expect
is how
to lose.
Well, no, hopefully not. But when I play poker, when I play blackjack, I love to go to the casinos and I bring like $100 or $200, not much, but that's what I bring to play poker. Okay. And so I'll go and play blackjack and I'm very conservative. And what I do is I'll buy chips with my, whatever I buy in, let's say it's $100 and I'm at the cheap table. And I will buy that amount, and I have those chips in front of me. And anything I buy, I go over that $100, I put in my pocket. Okay, so if I win the first hand and I win $5, I put that $5 coin in my pocket, and I keep going until the $100 is gone. And then I walk away from the table and I see what's in my pocket, and I see if I won or lost. And that's a good
strategy.
That's my strategy. Everyone has one, right? I have a friend who says if he wins twice, he doubles his bet. And that's his way of everyone's got like their own superstition when it comes to playing blackjack. But I'm kind of doing the same thing with my little bit of, I bought Ethereum because one of my guys on my team recommended that one over Bitcoin because it has been going up faster in the last year than Bitcoin. So, okay, cool.
Now, I just looked at Bitcoin and I guess one Bitcoin right now equals $60,129.70.
$1,000. Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Bitcoin.
Yeah. Ethereum is one coin to $3,800 right now. And I mean, it's just funny money. And I think, so my plan with my investment strategy, if you want to call it that, is I'm going to keep it. And if it goes up, let's say I have $100 in Ethereum. If it goes up to $500, I'm going to cash out and I'm going to buy another $100. And I'm going to keep doing that over and over again. Because I don't.
Now, how do you even cash out? Like,
you know, what's funny? I've never done it before. I don't exactly know. I'm sure it's, you can just sell it. It's just like stock. So you just sell it.
But for more Bitcoin or for actual?
No, you can turn it into cash. It's absolutely cash.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't sell it for another crypto. That would be weird. But
no, I just don't understand how you convert cryptocurrency into cash.
It's the same as stock, right? If you buy a stock, it's worth $100 or whatever it is. And when you're ready to sell it, what you're doing is you're finding another buyer who's willing to pay that much for it. That's what the stock market really is. It's two people really engaging in something. You just never see them because it's all electronic now. But to me, it's like the whole crypto thing, NFTs, those are a whole different. I know there's a lot of people love those. For people who don't know what an NFT is, it stands for non-fungible token, which is the most techie nerd term I think I've ever heard. But
basically, it's just like if you're buying. I've only noticed the NFT topic when it comes up related to art, digital art, stuff like that. So I've noticed that it's like selling the original painting or the original song lyrics or the original, whatever you're selling.
That sounds right
to someone.
But it's not exactly right. And this is why I don't like these things. So I think they have a place, and we can talk about that briefly. But the problem with it is, like, one of the first NFTs that was ever sold was the very first tweet, which was Jack Dorsey saying hello world or something like that. Is this thing on? Something like that. And what he did was he turned that into an NFT. And he sold it for charity for like $10 million or $5 million, whatever. But what's interesting about it is it's not as though you can grab that original tweet from Twitter and put it in your pocket. It's a digital good, right? It's still up on Twitter. Already. And here's the fun part is what you're doing is you're buying that copy of that. If he wanted to make another NFT for that exact same tweet, nothing stops him.
Just the value of the first one goes down.
Yeah, the first guy gets hosed, but then the second guy can buy it. I mean, that's the thing I don't like about these. If I'm buying art, like I go and buy an Andy Warhol painting or a Picasso or something, I physically have something in my house or a vault or wherever rich people put those things. I put those away and I have a physical good, and I'm the only person on the planet who can own this. But when I sell an NFT, if the original guy just wants to make another one, he can. Anytime he wants to. And that doesn't affect the fact that you own that copy, but he can make another copy and it's totally legit. So to me, the future of that is great for like artists, or think of music. If I want to sell my stuff directly to my fans, I can sell you an album, and this is your album, right? You have a digital provable thing that you bought this from me. Yeah. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of the artists that I follow online have been selling stuff and making specific stuff for the sale of NFT through these, I guess you can call them galleries, or basically just services and websites that sell it. But a lot of them have been like, I can't get mad at it to see the artists that I like being able to like pay off student loans, get out of debt. And,
absolutely.
It's benefiting quite a bit. But then there's also the downside where people are saying, yeah, but you're kind of destroying the environment. And then there's artists that are trying to sell stuff that it's just not hitting. And then you just see these trends pop up of people making basically the same thing and just trying to sell it in two different galleries to see. So I don't know what everybody's expecting here, but it seems to me the NFT thing is more of a trend. And I know you said you just bought your first crypto. That seems to be lasting a little bit longer than everybody expected. So do you think it's going to continue to grow, or do you think the digital currency side of the economy is going to probably eventually take over? I hope so, since I
just bought some. But no, I think, to me, when I saw that originally, I think what people originally thought Bitcoin was going to turn into was a new way of disrupting currency in general. And I could go to Starbucks and buy my latte with a Bitcoin.
Yeah, like Apple Pay, but Bitcoin.
Yeah, but the problem with that is it went up so fast and the volatility is so bonkers that it's now an investment class thing because you're not going to go and buy a Starbucks with it, because by the time you bought the $5 Starbucks, that 0.001
you just gave him
coin,
$6,000.
Yeah, you just gave him 10, $20 on accident, and you didn't mean to. And I think that's where a lot of this stuff is happening. It becomes like poker money. Going back to my poker analogy, it becomes the reason why casinos use chips. One, they can track it, but traditionally, even before tech was involved, the reason they use chips is because
spending.
Yeah, it abstracts your money, right? If I'm pulling out of my wallet cold hard cash, there's a deep link there that is psychological that I do not want to get rid of this because it's hard-earned money.
Turn that into a plastic chip. This is mortgage.
Yeah, it's got real value to it. But if I turn that into a plastic piece or a clay piece, I guess in actual casino terms, if I turn that into a chip, it breaks some of that link. Now it's still, it's money, but it's fun money. It's monopoly money. And I think that crypto kind of turned into that. So now I have a Bitcoin. And yeah, I know somewhere it's worth $60,000, but now it's fun money. And now I can buy an NFT for half a Bitcoin and it's fun money. And those things go nuts because I have enough of these, whatever. And I'm not cashing out anytime soon. So I'm going to turn it into this. And I think that's why these go nuts. And I think the reason I bring this all up, and I think it's worth bringing up in our podcast, because obviously we're not crypto people, but I think the expectations is what
hard to manage expectations on something that's still so new and, like you said, volatile. Now you said did you get Bitcoin or did you get Ethereum? Or
I got Ethereum because my guy on our team recommends that. He's big into crypto, and I also like the name better. I think it sounds really cool and mysterious, but
it does sound more comic booky.
Yeah, and I do recommend that everyone does financial decisions with real money based on the name of something. That's always a good idea. That you can just put that in the bank. That's always smart. That's like buying books based on the pretty cover. Of course, I guess everybody does that. But anyway, the reason I think it's important to talk about that in terms of us is the whole concept of managing expectations, which is something we are very familiar with because we do it every single day. And when you're talking and you're working with a big part of what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is help people relate to their dev teams better when they have them, whether they're internal, external, offshore, whatever. Everyone has to manage their teams. If you're building, something for your business or a startup, and managing expectation is a huge part of that. And when I'm working with our project managers, that's something I hammer home, that the worst thing you can do is not manage the expectations for a client, because if they misunderstand it, that's what makes them mad. Right. If I tell them I'm going to be done with this piece of functionality by tomorrow, they're in their head writing that in stone. And that means because you are a good person with integrity, you're going to do that. The problem is in software, that software is hard. Some things go sideways and you might miss that deadline. And now you just broke those expectations. So what we tell our teams, and it's a struggle because it's just a struggle, but what we tell our teams is, hey, as soon as something goes wrong, like let's say we have a deadline on Friday to finish something. If we have a deadline on Friday and we're going to miss it for whatever reason, totally legit reason, we need our dev teams to tell us very, very quickly. I know they're going to know by Tuesday that they're going to miss that. Yeah. And we need to communicate that. That's the managing of expectations. That's what you should be expecting from your teams.
Now, is there also
a lot of dev shops?
Is there also a side of it to where managing the client's expectations on the simplicity versus the complexity of a certain, whether it's a feature or something you're building for them or creating for them? Because I know a lot of times a client can see like, oh, I see this website has this and it looks like that. I want that on my website. It should be pretty easy since it's already there. It exists on someone else's. Sure. So can you just copy that?
So
meanwhile,
those are two different things. And I want to get to those in turn because to me, there's managing expectation, like I was saying before, where we told you we're going to get X done by Friday. And if we can't, for, again, legitimate reasons that happens on software or construction or whatever, right? You found rot in the wood. You weren't expecting that. Your deadline shot. So you need to tell them that. And because if you don't, basically, like when I tell my team, hey, I need to know how's everything going. And I need them to not just say, oh, fine. I need them to say, oh, we're going to miss this, so that I can relay that. Because then 9 times out of 10, the client's fine. They're not mad at you. They understand. When they get mad is when you say you're going to hit it, and you've been telling them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that you're going to hit it on Friday, and Friday you miss it. That's what's going to tick them off. Because they've been telling other people, whether it's investors or clients or whatever, that this feature is going to be done by Friday. And it trickles down, and now their clients think they're liars. And so that's a big part of managing expectation. That is critical, and you need to make sure you insist upon that from your teams.
So like transparent communication from the moment you see something that might hold up a deadline or an expectation. That's what you're suggesting?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think another way to manage expectations would be on the psychological side, especially for your own internal dev team. There's one thing telling them. Well, I mean, there's one thing to tell a client, like, we might miss this and this is why, but we're actively trying to solve this problem in order to get there. So they feel like they're clued in, they understand that. But on the other side, if it's a dev that you assigned a task to and they were pretty confident from the beginning that they can take care of it, and they're seeing that there might be a hiccup along the way, but they're pretty confident they can handle that little bug or hiccup that's in the way in time to still complete whatever that task was. Now, they might not bring it up because they feel like they can do it, and they don't want to make it seem like, I promise I would have this done by, let's say, Friday again. So I don't want to seem like a failure here. I don't want to seem like I'm letting anybody down. So they go gung-ho on their own to try to fix not only the bug, but then complete the feature or whatever it is that they're developing. Now, if they miss that Friday, they're going to feel like a failure. They're not going to want to communicate why. And they're probably going to, like, that's going to translate to you telling the client, we missed it, but I don't exactly know why until you talk to the dev on Friday, and then he tells you what happened. So
yeah, I think that's one of the
being transparent in the communication to the client and also with your team, and giving them, the opportunity and encouraging them to say, like, hey, I ran into this hiccup. Maybe you could reach out to other resources, either on your team or someone else that can help them get past that little hurdle to then finish through and complete that task. This way they feel like it's more of a team effort. They're not going to get, I guess, have that negative feeling of knowing that they let someone down or didn't communicate well enough what they thought they could do in time based on an unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, I have to say, from transparently speaking, I think that's one of the things I have been struggling with as a business owner. That's something I didn't even recognize. Okay. Because I'm built differently. I don't do guilt. I don't do regret. It's just I'm not wired that way, which much to my wife's chagrin sometimes. But I don't recognize those things. Like, I'm totally oblivious, and I'm not saying that as a good thing. Sometimes it's helpful, but a lot of times I just don't recognize that this would cause guilt or frustration or something that and other people do. And so this is something that we have struggled with over the years to make sure that I'm not super oblivious to that, because to me, you missed a deadline. It's not a big deal. It's okay. That thing was harder than you expected it to be, or, you found rot under the floor in a technical sense. That happens. This existing code is just trash, and you're going to have to rebuild it you didn't know that when you made that estimate, and all that is fine to me. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll relay that. We'll make sure the client's understanding and happy and all that. But I don't think of the psychological psychological implications. There we go. Of that process. And that's what I've been trying to figure out and trying to rely on other people, because that's something that's important. And I'm trying to lean on that more, because devs like to accomplish things, right? That's why they did their problem solvers by nature. This is what they do. So when they can't, or they fail in that temporarily, even, there's a psychological side to that is important to not forget.
Right.
When you're talking
they
about
like to solve the problems. So that is the feeling that they want at the end of the task or whatever. That, yes, I solved the problem. It's awesome. They don't want that I couldn't do it, I feel like a failure. But somewhere in between there has to be enough of an empathetic communication, or at least questions being asked, or the ability to have them let you know what they're running into. I wouldn't say daily, but just so they could bring it up when it comes up, where they know it's not going to lead to them feeling like a failure if they don't accomplish the task because of something that came up.
Yeah. So I wanted to finish that thought, but I did want to loop back to what you were saying earlier about clients' expectations when it comes to how easy or how hard something is.
Yeah. So if like a client
important.
wants to add a feature or some, fancy new little thing to their website or their app or whatever that they've seen on other apps or websites, and they would just assume, since we are a dev team or whatever, we write software that, oh, this guy's got it on his app, I want that on my app. It already exists, so it's not like you're creating something. So how hard could it be? Like, how long can I expect that?
I have a story on that. So this is true.
Okay.
We are not working with this individual anymore, so I can be a little candid. So we had a client who, and this is true. He said, what we need here is we need Facebook right here, and I know it can be done because Facebook's already doing it. And so, I don't expect this to take very long. This is literally what he's
just
saying.
Go ahead and build a social media.
Can you just put Facebook in here? I had the same guy, and this is the same app, if you can believe it. He wanted in another section of the app to be LinkedIn. So it was going to be Facebook on one side and LinkedIn on another. You can imagine how well this would have gone. And he was just like, this should be easy.
Throw YouTube in there too.
Spotify. It's just already there. And that's an extreme example, but that happens all the time. Oh man, that looks really easy. Or I don't understand why this would take, we'll give an estimate. This is 50 hours for this doodad doomaflichi. And they were like, well, why? It's dead simple. I just want.
Isn't there a plugin for that? Can't you just
grab that from that other website that does that? And managing client expectations is super important when it comes to that, because they just don't know. You can't just be like a standard thing and an immature thing. I'll say early in my career, I took this more personally because I'm like, you're infringing upon my skill level and you must think, I'm
questioning expertise.
Yeah. Which of course I'm not a big fan of, but I used to get really flustered by these kinds of questions. And then I realized, the clients just don't know any better. It's not like they're insulting you because they think what you do is dead simple and should be done by a team of monkeys. What they're saying is, I don't really understand it. And the better you can explain to them why this is actually complicated and not lie, because the other side of this is a lot of devs love to blow smoke and make things seem a lot more complicated than they are. But, honestly say, okay, hey, this e-commerce thing you want right here is we got to build a cart. We got to build this, that, and the other because you need custom stuff that I can't bring in Shopify, right? I can't bring in the thing you think because you've got this custom flow that you need. And here's exactly what we're doing, right? X, Y, and Z. And that's important. And you've got to be patient with the client to do that. And on the other side, the client needs to be receptive that you did hire an expert. Again, bringing that term up again. You did hire the expert and they are being honest with you that this actually does take this long to do, if not longer. A lot of times there's hours and stuff that we don't bill for that we have to go and learn how to do something or whatever. And we're not even telling you that. So it's even worse than we're telling you sometimes. But I think that's a big part of managing expectations that gets overlooked sometimes, or that becomes a real tense point. Like, I'm insulted that you think I'm an idiot, or that my job is easy and anybody can do it. Right. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is these guys are untrustworthy people that I have to ride like a pony to make sure that they're doing, they're not lying to me. That kind of distrust is going to blow your project up. If you are, and I promise the 4 people who are listening right now, one person is experiencing that right now, because that's super common.
That's all just that veil of like non-transparency.
Exactly.
So, as if you are the expert and you can manage expectations, well, then you can have a relationship with the client that's more of a partner level and work together trying to solve these problems and understand why something may or may not be as easy as they expect, or maybe it's not the right solution because it is. You don't need to build a custom this or that if there is a plugin that they can have that might not be exactly the same as the other product that they saw that they wanted to copy, but will accomplish the same goal.
Now, I'm gonna take a slight detour here, because this is something that's tangentially related, but it's important. Sometimes there are plugins to do a feature, right? Sometimes I don't have to build it custom. And a good developer should be okay with that. Like, what you're going to find a lot of time is
the ego of a developer saying that he could build it better than the plugin.
Well, it's there. There is some of that. Some of it is I can make more money if I do this custom, right? That's a common thing. Okay. And a lot of times you'll find dev teams that just want as much money in the first phase as possible, and they don't think about it long term. Usually that's a new developer kind of thing. If you've been doing this a while, you stop thinking that way a lot of times. But if you're working with a younger guy and he might be going, well, I'm going to build this custom because 1, I can. 2, it's interesting to me and I think that's neat. And 3, I can charge out the yin yang for it. And that's not good, right? You're not building the relationship there. So I don't think it's wrong for a client to say, hey, is there a plugin for this? Is there a way we could tie in something using Zapier, or could we, do something and bring it together through their API rather than building the whole thing custom? Right. And the answer is often yes, especially nowadays. There's just so many APIs out there. Like for instance, we've got a client right now. They do custom shipping. I mean, like the custom, I'm shipping a 500-pound statue, right? This is not USPS kind of stuff. And we could build a custom shipping thing that ties into X, Y, and Z API, because obviously we can't do the actual moving of trucks, but we could do that custom and hook into all of these things and build that and charge them at the wazoo for it. But we found out with a little bit of research that, boy, that's already done. And it's done really well. There are shipping companies that there are software companies that sit on top of shipping APIs that make it just dead simple. And you can just bring it in for a 1/10 of the cost of building it custom. And so that's what we did.
Seems like that's the best solution for the problem right there.
Yeah, and also you don't have to maintain it, right? I mean, custom code you got to maintain. And so sometimes that just gets boring. I mean, who wants to maintain shipping software forever? Let them do that. And you just do the cool stuff on your side of the fence. But it's just important. I just want to bring that up. I mean, I know that's not directly related to what we were saying before, but it's important to that's again where you're going to hear me harp on this.
You're managing an expectation. Well, you're managing an expectation.
That's right.
Because they might think that it needs to go one way, but you found a different way to go and told them exactly
one of our guys
why that's
also, better. When it comes to managing expectation, I could go on this forever, it seems. One of my architects said, we always, and I love this quote, even though sometimes it's a real pain in practicality, but we always reserve the right to get smarter. And what that is, and I've stolen that quote many times. Sorry, Jonathan, but I think that's a great quote because developers, we start building something, we're in a new industry, by building custom software, we're always doing different industries and we learn how they work better and we learn how to do things better, not necessarily from a technical, but from a business flow perspective. And we come back and say, hey, that estimate that we did, if we think for a little bit extra, we could do all these extra features because we learned better how this works. And that's important. I think that's something that should be in that relationship that you're building with your team, that you have that door open, because at the end of the day, you want the best software you can afford. If it's over your budget, fine, don't do it, right? Cool, no problem. But if it's a little bit more and you're going to get 20, 30% more utility out of it, then it's worth listening to. And if you have that open relationship, again, it all ties back in some way to managing expectations, but I think that's a really important thing that's often overlooked, because some people say, well, you said this would take 10 hours. And if it doesn't take 10 hours, you're a liar. Well, it's
weird
that's
when
harsh,
you're
man.
Managing someone who expects to be purchasing, like they would purchase an item from a store. Like if they want designer software or something, they're just like, well, I want this. It should take this long and cost this much and no questions.
Yeah. And that's just setting yourself up for a really, really rough time. Okay. So on that note, I think I want to transition real quick to something fun and wrap up something fun. Have you been paying attention at all to the William Shatner Space Odyssey?
I am so stoked for James T. Kirk. The fact
he's 90 years old. Did you know that? I did not know that.
Yeah,
90 years old. Man,
it's
I hope
crazy.
I'm moving around like that and could get on a rocket at 90 years old.
I mean, you got to be in pretty decent shape just to go up, take that many G's of force and go up that high in the atmosphere. Right? So I'm sure you would. Yeah. I
mean, it's impressive. I mean, as much as I've said in the past, I'm not a huge fan of Jeff Bezos just because I think he can do some skeezy stuff sometimes, but he's taken 2 elderly people up to space, which is, and for very different reasons. Wally Funk, which is the greatest name ever. She went up and she was this legend woman who trained to be an astronaut long time ago after the moon mission, and eventually they scuttled the idea of women going up to space in the 60s, which is stupid. But she was all trained and ready to go and never got to go. And so but she's always been a big space person. So she went up first, and now we're bringing up Captain Kirk. I think I love it. I think that's hilarious. But then there's the darker side of it, if you want to call it. Then George Takei, who played Sulu on the old Star Trek, they're now, apparently they have a beef. Apparently they don't like each other. And so they've been taking pot shots. Yeah, it's like, come on, you're Sulu. Aren't you supposed to be nice? I mean, what's weird is, I don't know George Takei, obviously. And he's 84, by the way. So they're all up there. But I always see him as this kind of funny, he's got a great voice. And he's funny, kind of grandfather-y person. He's really politically active and all that. And then you see him taking pot shots at William Shatner.
It is pretty comical.
It's strange. You just don't think about that. I was like,
maybe it's just like a rivalry over who captained the better, what is it, the USS? Were they both on the Enterprise? I'm not a Star Trek fan.
Get out. God, you just lost all your nerd cred. Come on. What is that? Nerd cred. No, Sulu was the communications guy.
Oh.
Come on. Star Trek was actually a really progressive show at the time.
It was.
It was huge. Like this is in the 60s. You had a black lady in a lead role.
For sure.
You had a Russian in the 60s. That was Chekhov. You had a Russian. That was so unheard of at the time. Gene Roddenberry was pushing the envelope seriously on that.
Well, maybe his vision of the future was probably a little bit more, open and diverse than.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But in the 60s, that was crazy. Like people, that was not a common thought, is that we're going to be a diverse society of all the races and countries working together. And that was his vision of Star Trek. And in the show, to his credit, they kept most of that, some of that. And I've always given him credit for that, because in the 60s, that was just mind blowing. When I show my kids old Star Trek, man, it is so bad. It immediately turned it off. Nope. But it certainly had its moments.
That's got to be cool for William Shatner to actually go up, see the round planet, not square, not flat, like up in space, and then just hover there for a second, even if it is a little tourist trip. Man, I can't imagine
like 30
the feeling
long.
of like the culmination of that whole character he played for so many years, and everything that goes along with that. Just finally being able to see the Earth from space.
Art meets reality.
That's pretty awesome.
As it were. Agreed. All righty. I think it's time to wrap this guy up. I would like to encourage everyone again to send in questions. We didn't get one this week, unfortunately. And I didn't have time to make one up. So we're going to do it in the future. And I won't tell you. Well, I probably will tell you if I make it up or not. But if you want to have a question in here, please feel free to email us at hello@thebigpixel.net. And you can also send any comments, feedback. We'd love to hear it. Good, bad, ugly, all 6 of you. Love to hear what you think of the show and what we could do better and topics you'd like us to explore. But in the meantime, we will be back next week. And thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good one, y'all.
See you guys later.